Looking for a Christmas gift for the political tragic in your life? What's the Big Idea is the first book from Australia Institute Press. It offers 32 ideas for a better Australia, from leading thinkers such as Yanis Varoufakis, Sally McManus, Jennifer Robinson, Bob Brown, and Auntie Pat Anderson. The essays are a reminder that Australia matters and that the big challenges we face can be solved. Australia just needs the courage to face them. Visit australiainstitute.org.au or follow the link in the show notes to get your copy in time for Christmas.
Hello and welcome to Dollars and Cents, the Australia Institute podcast where we're talking about just what the hell is going on in the economy. I'm Elinor Johnston-Leek, the senior content producer here at the Australia Institute, and as always, I'm talking to our chief economist, Greg Jericho. Hello, Greg.
Hi, Elinor.
How are we going today?
I'm going good. Very good.
That's very good. Greg, when we get new economic figures out, I tend to make a bit of a joke that it's your favourite time of the month or whatever it is. But that's kind of been getting a bit old because the key figures just kind of keep happening. Is this kind of what it is like in economics land?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of figures.
Yeah, there's sort of frequent bursts of excitement, numbers. Or does it kind of get old after a while?
Well, if it gets old, you better get another job because they just keep on coming and keep on coming in a regular cycle as we
Okay, well, at least you can see them coming.
Week with the GDP figures that come out every 3 months. So if you don't like them, wait 3 months and you'll get another set of figures that you probably won't like either. So,
And did you not like these ones that came out?
No, they were terrible.
Oh, okay.
They were really bad. No stars from Greg. Couldn't dance to them. There was nothing, no melody or anything. Really bad.
National accounts data revealing a bleak reality. The economy crawling.
0.3% growth last quarter, an annual rate of 0.8%.
Our economy is still growing, but very slowly. The most encouraging aspect of the data is the growth in real incomes.
These numbers are a nightmare. This is a complete and utter failure.
But the devil is in the detail on these figures.
Yes, the economy's growing, but it is due to a lot of government spending.
So if it hadn't been for immigration, this would be a 21-month-long recession, the same as the shocker we had in the early 1980s.
I mean, what was the word you used to describe them yesterday when we were talking about this?
Well, basically, the economy's in the shitter.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. Are they more in the shitter than they were last time they came out 3 months ago?
Yeah, that's we'll get into them, but one of the big problems is they keep getting worse and they weren't all that good to start with. And a way to sort of look at it, I mean, again, for those of you who have been listening to us for a while, and thank you very much for listening, but for those who just tune in because it's GDP time and it's time to tune in, GDP, again, what is it? It measures the entire economy. Every time there's money changing hands, whether that's for exports, imports, whether that's just you getting paid or someone making a profit, something being built, something being done, essentially that involves money, is measured. And that's the size of the economy, and the GDP figures, we look at how fast it's growing.
Yeah.
And we kind of want the economy, as a general rule, to grow around 2.8 to 3% each year in real terms. And what that means is taking away inflation, because if inflation's going massive, the price of everything's going up, and actually you mightn't have produced anything more, but, it looks like the economy's growing. It's not really. So we do it sort of in real terms. So we want around 2.8 to 3%. That's kind of what a good, steady average. Things are looking good.
Yeah.
So keep that sort of figure in your head, 2.8 to 3%. So let's have a look at what's happened over the last sort of 2 years. When we got out of the pandemic and all the kerfuffle that happened there with lockdowns and then opening up, and it looked like everything was terrible, then everything's super great and everything. It's all back in December 2022, the economy was growing 3.2%. Great. Really good.
Sounds good.
Reserve Bank a bit worried that might be growing a bit too fast, all of that. So slamming on the brakes. By March 2023, 2.7. Bit slow. June 2023, 2.
Yeah.
Real starting to slow. Then September 2.1. Ooh, maybe not so bad. Maybe we're over the hump. No, December 2023, 1.5.
No.
March 2024, 1.1. June 2024, 1. And this latest one that came out today for the September figures, 0.8% growth.
Oh, God.
That's a long way from 3%. And
Yep.
so it's a case of the economy just getting worse and worse and slower and slower and slower.
Yeah. So can we still blame this on Putin?
No, not really, because, I mean, Putin kind of actually, as we've been noting, helped the mining sector greatly, and mining profits add to our GDP, which is why when we have things like invasion of Ukraine that sends gas prices soaring and coal prices and things like that, and our companies are doing well, we should be taxing them a heck of a lot. One, because they weren't planning for Putin to invade Ukraine and send gas prices soaring, so we perfectly legitimately should be taxing it. And also, it's a case of it actually kind of helps the economy. But if we're not taxing, we don't really get much help. It just all goes to multinational companies, and a lot of it is going overseas.
Yeah.
So it's not Putin. He's not the one that's causing the economy to slow. It's the Reserve Bank.
Yeah. Your arch nemesis.
I have been a slight little critic of
a professional hater.
No, there's no hatred. It's just a purely professional, constructive criticism on my behalf that the Reserve Bank is killing the economy.
Just constructive. Have they gone anywhere, the construction of that?
No, they have not so far taken my advice. Very bizarrely, but look, it's really clear from these figures and those numbers that I went through. That slowing of the economy is such that now we're at a point where there was only two things that kept the economy going. Population growth, because as you know, we've been having this long period now. It's getting close to 2 years in a row of the economy going backwards once you take out population growth. So pretty much population growth is the thing that's keeping us rising, and that happened again in this most recent quarter, making it 7 quarters in a row of GDP per capita, which is basically GDP divided by the entire population, fell. That's 7 quarters in a row and 8 out of the last 9. That's just, we've never seen that before. Now, part of that is because we actually have had pretty strong population growth, and a lot of the population that's coming in are students who aren't, as you'd say, really productive. They're here to study. It's not like they're coming in and working in factories.
They're limited in their work hours.
So that kind of lowers the average sense. But that would be fine if the overall economy was going okay and we could say, oh, yeah, look, we're just going backwards on a per capita basis because we got a lot of students coming in, so we can kind of ignore it. But as I say, when those total figures where we're now at 0.8, that's including population growth. That's not good. And what happens when we drill down further is we see the only thing that's even keeping that 0.8% and not going backwards is government spending.
This is playing an important role in our economy. This spending, defence spending, state spending, as well as our cost of living help and our investments in the NDIS and aged care are an important part of the story when it comes to any growth that there is in the economy at the moment.
Okay.
So take out government spending. We're just looking at the private sector. If we did that, we would actually be in a recession right now.
Oh, okay.
And that is not a good thing.
No, I mean, I might not know much about economics, but I know that a recession is a bad thing.
Yeah, and look, it's been an extraordinary thing in that, that 0.8% annual growth, that is the worst growth we've had since basically the 1990s recession. If you take out the pandemic, which was kind of all artificial because the economy shut down because we locked down everything. You couldn't do anything. But the economy at that point wasn't actually weak. It was just the government forbid anyone from doing anything. So you don't really count that. It's weaker now than during the GFC when things were really going badly. This is when you're starting to say the worst since the 1990s recession. That is not a good sign. And the fact that it's all been held up by government spending, government investment, I'm asking, well, what are you doing, Reserve Bank? What are you waiting for? How bad does it have to be before you go, you know what, maybe we hit the brakes a bit too hard and for a bit too long, and now we got to actually help stimulate the economy.
For being the worst since the GFC and the 1990s recession, there doesn't seem to be too much, I suppose, outrage. Is that the right word?
Oh, look, I think there is. I think people are really hurting, and you could also see from these figures, because the GDP figures also tell us how households are doing, how much households are spending. And in real terms, again, once you strip out inflation, Australian households actually bought very slightly less in July, August, and September than they did in April, May, and June. That is not a good thing. Households, remember, are about 50 to 55% of the entire economy. Our spending is really what drives the economy. Yes, we got mining, we got all these other industries and everything. They're great. But when they're not 55% of the entire economy, and if 55% of the entire economy is not spending more than they did 3 months earlier, that means the economy is weak as hell. And why aren't we spending as much? Because, well, again, we've got the figures that we can look at, because mortgage repayments have skyrocketed. On an average, on the per capita basis, they're higher now than they've ever been in Australia's history. Higher than they were before 2007, when interest rates were higher. Just before we went in the GFC, we had interest rates really a lot higher than they are now. But because the actual size of your home loan now is so much more than then, because houses cost so much more, the actual repayments that Australians are doing every month in interest is now at a record amount. And also, we know that the increase, we kind of did in 2 years what took about 5 years during the mining boom period when interest rates were rising there. They did that in 2 years this time. That's just slammed on the brakes, and it's worked.
Now we're hitting the airbags.
Yeah. I mean, you only raise the interest rates if you're the Reserve Bank because you want to slow the economy. Well, congratulations, you've done it.
You've done it.
But you always want to do it in a way that doesn't end up in a recession. And my God,
they might have not quite done that.
Yeah, I mean, we're not in a recession, but, you don't want to be in a situation where the only thing keeping the economy afloat is government spending. I mean, it's a good thing that that's happening. That's exactly what governments, and it's both state and federal governments, should do when the economy is weak. If you're in government, you look around, the economy's weak, you think, God, not much investment, not much spending. We better fill the gap, because otherwise we're going to be in a recession. People are going to start losing jobs. And that's exactly what we've seen here. There were two things that the government aspect really helped in the September quarter: their spending, and also the stage 3 tax cuts came on board.
Yep.
That also helped, certainly. And when we look at household incomes, it very much allowed household incomes to grow ever so slightly. But it's all about counteracting the negative impact of mortgage rises, and which is hurting both mortgage holders, obviously, but also small businesses as well.
So what do you mean? Like, why are small businesses not doing so well?
Yeah, we often forget that. Well, I'm betting small business owners don't forget, but even in the media coverage, when we talk about interest rate rise, it's always about people with a home loan, and sure, that hurts. But if you're BHP, you don't really care too much about what the Reserve Bank. You're not heading down to your local Westpac or NAB and wanting to talk to a loans manager. You can issue bonds, or there is multiple ways in which you can get credit. You can get loans. But if you're a small business owner, you do have to head down to your bank. You've got a small business loan or an overdraft loan. Your loan that is, you've got your house up as equity, and those interest rates rise much the same as do home loans, and sort of sometimes even faster. And so you're getting hit by that. Your costs are rising because of that. But also, who are your customers? The people who are getting hit by the mortgage, so they're not spending as much. So you're getting hit both ways.
And you might have a mortgage yourself as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so what we certainly have seen from the figures is that there's this thing in the national accounts called mixed income, which is basically a fancy way of, it's not a wage that you're getting paid by an employer. It's not a corporate profit. It's basically unincorporated profits, small business profits, really. Yep. And that has certainly taken a hit, a really big hit. And because small business owners are kind of part of households, if you're an electrician or, you've got a small shop or something, you're not a company, you're a household. That's where you're getting your money from. That has also contributed to the big fall over the past 2 years in household disposable income, which is kind of the general living standards of people. So there's really been a couple of things that have been big hits. One, it's been that wage growth hasn't been fantastic. It's been okay, but, kind of just keeping pace. And then you've got the mortgages going up, which is just because, as I've said in the past, you can't avoid paying your mortgage. So it's kind of treated similar to taxes in that when we're working at household disposable income, you have all your income, whether you get it from renting people out, whether you get it from your business, whether you get it from your wage or from interest on a term deposit or something like that. And then you take away taxes and you also take away mortgage repayments. And that weakness on the income side and the big hit on the mortgage side has been the main reason why household incomes are a lot lower than they were 2 years ago and even lower than they were, at the end of 2019 before the pandemic.
Yeah.
On a per capita basis, real gross disposable incomes rose 0.2% in the quarter. Remembering when we came to office, that measure was falling by 1.6%. So our policies are designed to ensure that Australians earn more and keep more of what they earn. We've still got more work to do, obviously, in that regard, but this data shows that we are making very welcome and very encouraging progress.
We talk a bit more about disposable income. I've been seeing, in the news a lot lately that it's been dropping quite a lot. Is it doing as badly as the GDP is?
Yeah, in some ways it's doing worse. And one of the reasons, you're right, there's been this, and it's a kind of an interesting thing. I suspect that the Shadow Treasurer's Office, or at least the opposition, has kind of started wording up a few journalists about household disposable income. Because one of the things about household disposable income is there is actually no figure in the budget papers. You kind of have to work it out. You get household income in current dollar terms, but then you got to do some fancy maths to get it, strip out inflation. Then you got to do some more maths to strip out population growth and sort of talk about it. So, and there's not many journalists that can do that. Certainly, there's a few sort of who have got an economics background.
Are you about to tell me that you are one of those journalists?
I am one. I am one of them. I actually started. I'm humble brag here. I was kind of the first who started doing it.
Oh my gosh!
Back in 2017.
Yeah.
Purely because I read a column by an economist from Melbourne, Roger Wilkins. He sort of talked about it in I think a column he wrote in The Conversation. And I thought, oh God, yeah, those figures are there. I could probably work that out myself. And so I did. And I did it at the time because prior to then, everyone just talked about national income. And national income was rising. This is back in 2017, 2018.
Can you just define national income quickly?
National income, and this is why I was sort of interested in looking at household, because national income was rising at this time. I'm thinking, but the economy's crap. Everyone's struggling. Why is national income rising? Then I went, national income includes corporate profits. And at the time, mining was doing really well. And it was like, okay, that's good for BHP and it's good for Rio Tinto, but households, not so much. And so what I did was started pointing out actually household disposable income is flat, wasn't going up at all. And I started referring to that as kind of a sign of economic well-being. I even got a call from the then Treasurer's Office querying this, because in the past I had referred to national income as sort of economic well-being. They're going, now why are you changing the goalposts? And I said, well, because
the goalposts were stupid.
Kind of it used to be that household income and national income kind of did go up in sync. But suddenly it wasn't. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to keep referring to something that doesn't make any sense. So I started actually calculating every 3 months household disposable income and household disposable income per capita. And yeah, over the past 3 years, it's kind of collapsed because of all these factors, because of weak wages growth, because of mortgage increases, bit of taxes there as well, small businesses not doing. So I've been sort of banging on about this, and suddenly in the last sort of 3 weeks, suddenly there have been all these exclusive stories in the Australian and Fin Review pointing out that, household disposable income is falling and this will be bad for the government. I'm like, okay, can you read my column and listen to my podcast?
Yeah, you've got the exclusive.
But what is also interesting, though, the Treasurer, Jim Chalmers, in his press conference on Wednesday when these figures came out, he pointedly referenced household disposable income rising and sort of made that his key thing of, this is a good sign. Things are starting to help for households. I'm not too critical of conservative media's now going on about household disposable income. I kind of think we should always be talking about that, because who cares about GDP? Household
you
income.
Apparently.
Yeah, but I only care about GDP because it has an impact on employment.
Okay.
If GDP, we want GDP to grow about 2.5-3% so that unemployment doesn't rise. And if GDP is flat, generally unemployment in a year rises about 1%.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I take it back.
But it is a thing where people, you care about, I don't actually care about GDP. I care about the fact that it has an impact on things.
Yeah.
It's a good sign of what's going on. So whereas household incomes is much more important. If that's falling, if that's rising, that's important. Again, I don't care what BHP is doing. I only care if BHP is doing well because BHP are then going to employ some people and pay them well. The problem is mining companies don't employ many people, as we at the Australian Institute have often noted. People were saying, mining is the backbone of the economy. One, there is no backbone of the economy, and also mining doesn't employ many people. So I kind of like looking at household income. Interestingly, over in the UK, Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister over there, has stated that household disposable income is going to be its kind of milestone measure that it is going to look at to judge how it's doing, not GDP. He's kind of saying we're going to care about household disposable income. One of the reasons why that's kind of interesting is what also goes into household disposable income is government support. Government support goes to households, lifts household disposable. So it suddenly really puts a primacy on governments having an active role. And I think what we're seeing from these figures is there are times when governments really should be having an active role. That's when the private sector has been smashed. And that's what we're seeing right now.
Do you think that there's any chance that the Australian government's going to use the same tactic?
Oh, look, I think what we've seen is that it's now become a really sort of newsworthy metric. Suddenly everyone's worked out that there's this thing. Yeah. And so I think what's important is once it starts rising, once it starts going well, hopefully it still keeps getting coverage, that we still keep caring about households and not about GDP, not about profits and things
and
like that.
And caring about policies that strengthen household income.
Yeah. And then we can start worrying also, okay, which households are improving? Because, the average might be doing well, but is that because the very rich are doing really well and the poor are just being ignored? And we can have a better conversation, I think, about national accounts. So it'd be interesting if the Bureau of Stats starts including the figure. They could certainly do that, and if they do that, then it's going to get reported every quarter, just as much as GDP.
Yeah. Well, if anyone from the ABS is listening, you know what to do.
Please get in touch with me, and I will tell you how to calculate. No, I know the ABS people do, but it really it's a vital thing because the economy is people. If we're not caring about how people are doing, then what's the point of everything? It's like, let's get the focus back there, and rather than this gormless sort of abstracty thing at times of GDP, which no one really cares about, but people very much care about how they're doing, and they should, and so should governments, and so should the Reserve Bank.
Seems very sensible to me.
It does.
All right, that's probably all we've got time for today, Greg.
It is, but we will be back, Elinor, with another Dollars and Cents next week, but it will be our last of the year.
Before Christmas break.
Yeah, I'm off on a holiday the week after. And so we've got a special one next week. We'll be doing a full-on Q&A podcast. And thank you to everyone who's been following me on Blue Sky, who has sent questions. Please keep them coming. We will go through them all, try and find the ones that are most common or most interesting. For those of you not on Blue Sky, why aren't you on Blue Sky? Come on Blue Sky and follow Elinor.
It's fine. I don't know. It's another social media. I don't know how excited I can get, really. Well, there's so many of them now.
You can follow and find out the 20 most influential books that I have had in my life. I'm up to book 6 at the moment. So, Secret Diary of Adrian Mole, age 13 3/4, was one of them. Yeah. But yeah.
But anyway, back to
it. If you don't follow us on social media, you can email your questions to us at podcasts, that's with an S, podcast with an S, at australiainstitute.org.au. So look forward to that. But this episode of Dollars and Cents was recorded on the 5th of December, not long now, to 20 days. Even I can do that maths, 20 days till Christmas, 5th of December. And some things may have changed. The GDP figures do get revised, but I don't think they'll have changed by the time people have listened to this, unless something really bad has happened. You can find my column, Grogonomics, which looks at all of the figures in the GDP on the Guardian Australia site. And for more research on what's going on in the economy and also the odd bashing of the Reserve Bank, on our website, which is at australiainstitute.org.au. My Blue Sky handle and the handle I use on all social media is at GrogsGamut. Elinor is at Elinor
Johnston Leak.
Elinor Johnston Leak, no hyphen, no underscore, no nothing. Just at Elinor Johnston Leak, spelled as
ELINOR JOHNSTONLEEK.
Yeah, well, I mean, leek could be spelt differently, and Elinor
like
is spelt in the wrong way, but yours is spelt in the right way.
Okay, we're getting off topic.
Yeah. Our theme music, as always, is from Blue Docs Sessions. Everyone, have a great week, and we'll see you all next week.
See ya.